Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 6:45 p.m. and a quorum of members is present, so the meeting of the Board of Education of the School District of New Berlin is called to order. Please call the roll.
Ms. Crosby.
Here.
Mr. Helmer.
Here.
Mr. Kurth. Ms. Schulz.
Here.
Mr. Seidel. Ms. Unger.
Here.
Ms. Wondercheck.
Here.
Mr. Kurth notified me that he will be calling in during our open session. Next, we then have our roll call to recess to closed session. I would entertain a motion to recess to closed session. Can you do it?
Is it written out?
Or you can look at that.
What if you see all those?
You have to say all.
Madam President, I move to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Section 19.81C, E, and F on the Wisconsin statutes to consider approval of closed session minutes of May 10th, employment, performance, and compensation matters pertaining to staff, and return to open session.
I second it.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer and a second by Ms. Crosby. Please call the roll.
Mr. Helmer.
Yes.
Ms. Crosby. Ms. Schulz.
Yes.
Mr. Seidel.
Yes.
Ms. Unger.
Yes.
Ms. Wondercheck.
Yes.
We are moving into closed session and will return to open session around 7 o'clock. It is now 7 o'clock, and we are returning from closed session into open session. In recognition of the serious and important nature of our efforts here, we will join in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. For all who are able, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now for those who wish to prepare for the meeting, we will have a moment of silence. This is a public meeting of the Board of Education. Prior to this meeting, notice was given to the public last Friday by providing the agenda to the City Library. The agenda was also posted on the district website. A copy of the agenda was forwarded to the Journal-Sentinel, the Waukesha Freeman, and the Waukesha Now, all of which have filed requests for all public notices. We'll begin tonight with recognitions. First up, we have Career Exploration Partnership Spotlight with Project Search.
Yes, so as we have been doing throughout the school year, we've been bringing you featured partnerships throughout. Tonight is a special partnership that we would like to celebrate, and I'm not going to steal Amanda's thunder, and she'll kind of tell you about the project and share a little bit about the success that we experienced as a result of this partnership.
There we go. Well, thank you for having me, board. I'm actually going to call up Lisa Brazelton with me right now as well while we explain, and then I'm going to call up our students in just a minute. So Project Search has been a partnership of our district for many years. Lisa Brazelton is our transition specialist for our district, and she also happens to work closely with our 18 to 21-year-olds who stay with us post-high school to continue to work on their individualized goals. And much of what we do in the 18 to 21-year-old realm is really working on that vocational experience and making sure that our students are life ready. So with that, Project Search is a very comprehensive program that students have to apply to. There's a rigorous application process, and the district helps provide financial support in order for students to participate in that program if their IEP teams feel that that is the next best step for them post their 4 years of high school with us. So during their training program, they work on vocational skills, they work on job readiness skills, they work on life skills, further independence, and the goal of that program is for students to graduate ready for competitive paid employment. And the 3 students we have here today are graduates of the program for Project Search this year, and our partnership site was the Milwaukee County Zoo, and all 3 of them are now going to be gainfully employed with competitive paid employment. So I'm going to call up Grace Owen, Jordan Cotter, and Samantha Van Weerwegen. Come on up, don't be shy. Mrs. Brazelton, is there anything you want to say about their work this year?
I just want to share out that I would just like to share out that all 3 of these students here are just amazing. They've made amazing gains. All 3 of them started very shy and unsure and are now just rock stars. Grace was just telling me today that she's going to be actually speaking at their completion ceremony, which is just huge. It's huge for her. It's just wonderful. These fine interns here they've all had 3 different rotations where they've been able to experience a variety of different skill sets and grow in their employability. And again, to graduate employment ready and employed competitively is just huge for these students. And I'm so proud of them. Words just can't explain. So I want to give them each a chance to introduce themselves briefly. Sammy, you want to start?
Okay. Hi, my name is Samantha Page Van Weerwegen. This June, I will complete my Project Search internship at the Milwaukee County Zoo. In Project Search, I participated in rotations such as Zoological Society, Environmental Services, aviary for the morning, and gift shop for the afternoon. Project Search has taught me how to prepare for an interview, how to properly provide customer service, and learning the difficult types of tasks within each rotation. Yeah, some of the ways that I have grown in Project Search are I have become more active as I walk around the zoo a lot. I've learned how to interact with customers in a professional manner as well as being efficient with my time. My favorite Project Search moments were activities we did during transition week, which was when a week we have a week to ourselves before going to our next rotations. Seeing what was behind the scenes of the zoo, and being able to develop professional relationships with the other interns in my rotation sites. After Project Search, I'm planning on looking for a second job, possibly attending WCTC, and would love to pursue my future job goal as becoming a web designer. Thank you, New Berlin School District, for supporting me in Project Search. It is an experience I will never forget.
And Jordan?
Hi, my name is Jordan Cotter. This June, I'll complete my Project Search internship at the Milwaukee County Zoo. While in Project Search, I participated in rotations in the Animal Commissary, Aquatic Reptile Center, and Zoological Society. Project Search has taught me what job options there are for me. Some of the ways I've grown while in Project Search are increasing my confidence in each of my rotations, making new friends, and found a job that is perfect for me. My favorite Project Search moment was when I was able to be at the membership desk by myself and assist customers. After Project Search, I will be in a paid internship for the Zoo Society's IT department. Thank you to Berlin School District for supporting me in Project Search, an experience I will never forget.
Hi, my name is Grace Owen. This June, I will complete my Project Search internship at the Milwaukee County Zoo. While in Project Search, I participated in rotations in aviary, animal health center, zoo society, and horticulture. Project Search has taught me not to be afraid to ask questions. Some of the ways I have grown while in Project Search are gaining confidence in my tasks and myself and self-advocacy. My favorite Project Search moment was assisting zookeepers in bird exhibits and feeding the terns in free flight. After Project Search, I am seeking a job in clerical position at a hospital setting. Thank you to New Berlin School District for supporting me in Project Search. It is an experience I will never forget.
One last thought as we wrap up. I also wanted to thank Shelley Niebler, who couldn't be with us this evening, but she's the instructor that we partner with through Project Search. I just wanted to read to the three of you what she said about you. She said, "We are so proud of all of our interns completing Project Search, especially this year. Grace, Jordan, and Sam have worked very hard this year and have grown in so many ways. We know they will continue to work hard in their community. And Project Search is also grateful to the school districts like New Berlin for supporting their program." So thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to you all. Next, we have our outgoing Eisenhower student representative, Nishi Upadhyay. Hope I got your name right. We just want to give you a special recognition for your service this past year. Just have some things to share about Nishi. She is a lifelong school district resident of New Berlin student, beginning back in kindergarten at Elmwood. She has been Eisenhower's student representative for the 2019-2020 and the 2020-2021 school years. Normally, as a representative, there's some special events that they get to attend where they can meet, mingle with local, state, and even national dignitaries. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic, she wasn't able to do that this year. We also have some things to share about her academic record, which is very amazing. For example, she has taken 11 AP classes, 4 college courses, and 3 other transcript college courses while being at Ike. She has been a stellar strings player in the school orchestra. In addition to being our school board rep, she's also been a member of National Honor Society, HOSA, Club Unify, Spanish Honor Society, Student Union, DECA, School Leadership Academy, and the tennis team. Mr. Buckley had some nice words to share. He said she has maximized her time at Ike and is a model of what can happen when a student wants to push themselves academically and also continue to be involved through co-curriculars and activities. And she did all of this with a great big smile and wonderful heart. We will miss her. And we will miss you too. Thank you for being part of the board this year and being our representative. And I have a very nice little plaque here to give you, and I'll bring that over.
I would like to also share that, obviously, as Mr. Buckley pointed out, Nishi certainly embodies what we would want as a representative of not only the school board, but the school district. And she's done that incredibly well by being a model student, a model individual, model friend to others, and certainly has made the most of her high school experience while here at Eisenhower. Nishi, we certainly wish you all the very best. Early congratulations on your graduation, because we won't be seeing you between now and then. And again, you've been a model representative and certainly one that we can all be proud of. So thank you for serving on behalf of the school district and the school board. Thank you, Nishi.
Next up is privilege of the floor. Meetings of the board are conducted for the purpose of carrying on the business of the schools, and therefore are not public meetings, but meetings held in public. This portion of the meeting is an opportunity for you to come and voice your concerns to the board. So please do not be offended when we quietly listen. We may even take notes. We do not immediately respond to your questions and comments. This is a time for you to talk and us to listen. Thank you for coming to voice your comments and concerns. When I call your name, please step up to the microphone, address the chair, and state your name and whether or not you are a resident in this school district. Each presentation is to be restricted to a maximum of 3 minutes. Privilege of the floor will be limited to 1/2 hour. Presentations are not to be designed for purposes of engaging others in a debate in this forum. Discussion of certified, classified, or professional personnel or of individual Board of Education members shall not be considered an appropriate topic for this forum, and the speaker will be ruled out of order. First, we have Ann Saflinsky.
Hello, Ann Shaflinsky, school district parent. Tonight I bring you 3 points for your consideration. First, it is inexcusable not to allow your constituents to speak at your meetings and bring ideas that you may not have considered. We can count on one hand the number of times you have had more than 30 minutes of speakers at a board meeting over the past 5 years. On these issues of great interest, why would you not want to hear from them? You force us to make calculated decisions whether to email all of you or come here in the hope of speaking. Last Tuesday, we came to speak to you before you voted. It is too late to email after the vote, but you took away the voice of 9 people. I'm astonished that this governing body could not spare 18 minutes to hear them, especially in the short meeting dedicated to one topic. Your behavior has a real chilling effect on public input. Second, when you abruptly decided to stop following health agency guidance, we got just what everyone expected. 6 buildings full of hundreds of unvaccinated humans, some of them still wearing masks to protect their fellow humans who chose not to, and some without masks making fun of and bullying and even spitting at the mask wearers, incidents like this being relayed to parents in every building in the district. You claimed you were dropping the mask requirement so you wouldn't single out those who were vaccinated. Instead, you singled out those who still wish to wear masks. Public health agencies insisted K-12 schools should keep mask rules in place. There are some of the largest concentrations of unprotected people left to spread the virus. Once there are exceptions, mask wearing falls apart. Peer pressure is a powerful force. But aside from the risks, here's the reason you need to keep masks for the final days of school. It was to keep your promise to your customers. You promised to protect our kids by following health agency guidance out of an abundance of caution, you said. With only 17 days left, you inexplicably abandoned your promises to us. You put families in a bad situation, forcing many to suddenly switch their kids to virtual instead of allowing them to finish their finals in person and with their friends. Remember that while people came to cheer your decision last week, you also created many unhappy customers. Finally, I'm not a medical professional, but I am a business professional, so I look at it through this lens. You advertised a summer school product. You set customers' expectations. They bought your product. They filled up your summer school classes. At work, we always start with the question, what problem are we trying to solve? What would compel you to alter the summer school product at the last minute? You need to articulate the problem to measure whether a change solves it. Data you collected shows the strong majority of summer school families agree that the 2020-21 mitigation strategies should stay in place. Many of those people would be comfortable sending their kids to summer school if masks were optional, but up to 40% of those families at the secondary level are not on board. If you now choose to do away with masks, I urge you that you understand the ramifications of last-minute change, causing dozens of families to potentially drop out of summer school, kids losing the opportunity to move their education forward, earn credits, too late for them to find alternatives. Meanwhile, you have excess capacity, too late to fill all those empty seats, collapse sections, lay off teachers that are counting on income. Are you prepared for so many customers unhappy, potentially hurting your students and your staff? Thank you.
Thank you. Leah Demo.
Dear School Board and Superintendent, I'd like to speak about the reduction in COVID mitigation strategies for the summer, the rest of this year, and 2021-22 school year. I'm a resident of New Berlin and have 2 children attending elementary schools in New Berlin. I want to thank the board members who voted to support parental choice, because it's parental choice, on masks at the emergency school board meeting last Tuesday. Thank you for considering this other sources of information, such as local health authorities and parental input when making your decision. I was very concerned that the board would solely rely on the CDC for medical guidance, which has put out conflicting and confusing information, in my opinion. Thank you for acknowledging that COVID mitigation, such as masking, can also have negative effects on our students, i.e. socially, emotionally, and physically. They just literally can't breathe as well with these masks on their faces. Lastly, thank you for just listening to the majority of your constituents. I think you have made the correct decision as COVID cases continue to decline and vaccination rates continue to go up in our community. I ask that you continue to make masking optional for summer school and the 2021-22 school year. Please also review the COVID mitigation guidelines to see how we can reduce them even more, so that our children can resume a normal school life. This would include social distancing protocols, such as, for several things, such as school dances, field trips, clubs, sports, and opportunities and activities. These are important life events that our children continue to miss. They can never get those opportunities back. We must continue to weigh all the risks and benefits. Missing important life events does impact the students' mental health and engagement with our schools. I would encourage you to continue to coordinate changes with Waukesha County Health Department and the surrounding school districts as you have in the past. I believe when we work together as a region, our community can have more confidence in your decisions. If students can shop in crowded shopping centers such as Walmart, Target, and Pick and Save without masks or social distancing, or dine in restaurants, then they can attend school with reduced mitigation strategies as well. If students can participate in those same things without special quarantining and proof of vaccination, then we should be able to do that in schools as well. It sounds like we will be offering a virtual option. Therefore, parents in favor of forced masking for all will have that option. Let us move forward to a happy and healthy summer and school year. Also, I'd like to let everyone know that you're able to easily give feedback through Board of Education forms to all members of the school board or email all the members. So having a half hour to speak with you during privilege of the floor should not be a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeanette Nowak.
Jeanette Nowak, New Berlin resident. That was really cool. I really enjoyed learning about Project Search. That wasn't something I was going to really say, but I just want to say that was awesome. And please continue that. That's really valuable. So let's go on to what I wanted to say. Did you know that in St. Croix, Wisconsin, there's a ban that says that women cannot wear the color red? And in Racine, Wisconsin, it is illegal to play checkers in public and also say, "King me." Do you know that according to state statute 944.16, adultery is a class 1 felony and punishable by $10,000 and 3 years in jail? But hey, no one has been prosecuted since 1849. And did you know that in Wausau, Wisconsin, it's against the law to throw a snowball? Lastly, did you know that the school district of New Berlin, policy 5130, bullying, cyberbullying, harassment, hazing, and other forms of intimidation and discrimination, adopted in July of 1994 and last revised August 10th, 2015, also has outdated language and not up to current day standards? There is a policy in place 9310 that says that policies and procedures shall be reviewed on a regular basis to be in compliance with existing state and federal laws. It's coming up on almost 6 years, and there's been quite a bit of updates to such a large policy that technically should be 3 or 4 separate policies, as no other school district research has combined such important policies as one lump. I ask that policy 5130 be put on the next meeting agenda so that it could be reviewed, revised, and updated, and not be a dusty policy like women not being able to wear red. I am also officially requesting the annual summary report that is presented to the Board of Education, which is to include any trends observed and recommendations on how to further reduce incidents of intimidating and coercive behavior. This annual report will be available to the general public, and I am officially requesting a copy of this annual report. Please look forward to my email from New Berlin Speaks Out, and I will see you at your next meeting to hear discussions about updating policy 5130. Thank you.
Thank you. Meg McKenzie.
Hello, I'm Meg McKenzie. I'm a resident of New Berlin. I'm the mother of 2 Eisenhower graduates, also the mother of a current senior at Eisenhower, and the mother of an incoming kindergartner at Elmwood Elementary School. I also would like to share that I was disappointed in the district's decision to remove masks with just a few weeks of school left, but I understand that that decision is the past, so moving on, I'm actually talking about the same thing that Jeanette Nowak just spoke about. I'm here to respectfully ask the board to review that policy, 5130. Last week, after changes were made to the COVID mitigation efforts, a bullying incident was reported to the district where some students would spit and cough on some other students, talking about COVID being a hoax. I'm actually not unfamiliar with bullying in this district, so I wanted to share a little bit about my own experience with bullying in the district. I don't think anyone would disagree. We have an excellent district, incredible teachers, definitely strong curriculum. My own students are a testament to that. But to my experience with bullying, my son was on the Eisenhower baseball team, and he stepped in one time when a bully got physical in the locker room. He was able to get the bully to stop, but then the bully came after him, knocked him to the ground, but thankfully it did stop there because 2 other brave students were able to step in and defuse the situation. Turns out that was actually the culmination of season-long bullying by this individual. And no one on the team was or had the courage to talk about this student. No one had the courage to turn this bully in. A parent found out about it. That's me. I did something about it. I stood up to the bully. I made it stop. I let the coach know. It was very disturbing to me, however, that my son had the courage to physically stand up to the bully, but didn't have the courage to go to his school administrators and trust them that they would do something to make his situation safer. Also, my son was a victim of the hazing that went on the football team in this district. And the hazing was disturbing, don't get me wrong, but the culture within this school and in this community was what was more disturbing to me. 8 students were eventually suspended briefly, and it prompted students and parents to start a weeks-long campaign to free the 8. Free the 8, they said to school leaders. Free the 8, they shouted on social media. They turned the hazers into the victims. The bullying policy, the hazing policy needs to be addressed. It's outdated. It needs to be addressed in an effort to improve the culture in this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Tidrick. Easier names.
Hello, my name is Michael Tidrick. This is my wife, Serafina Scholl.
Hello.
We're here today to ask you to reconsider district policy and admit exchange students for the upcoming school year. We've already emailed Superintendent Joe Garza and haven't received a response yet, but we hope to soon. Serafina and I have agreed to host Nika. She's an exchange student from the former Soviet Republic of Tajikistan. This school year is our only opportunity to be an exchange student. We know how difficult it's been the last school year with everything that COVID's created as far as chaos. And we know it's easier just to say no than to really examine the policy, and we're asking you to please examine that policy thoughtfully. Nika is coming from a country that has no reported COVID cases since January, and she could easily quarantine 2 to 3 weeks upon arrival in the United States and take multiple COVID tests prior to attending in-person classes. She will not present a COVID risk to the student population greater than any other student in the district. She's received top marks in all of her classes through 3 years of secondary school, and she's a Flex Scholarship winner. The Flex Scholarship is a competitive, merit-based scholarship program funded by the U.S. Department of State. Its purpose is to expose exceptional young people from former communist countries to American democratic culture in order to foster more democratic values abroad. Nika is not simply looking for a fun year abroad. She's one of Tajikistan's best and brightest. This cultural exchange will benefit her classmates and teachers as much as it will benefit her. Please don't pass on this opportunity just because of the perceived risk that COVID presents. And also, on a side note, I didn't plan to talk about it until I heard other people talking about bullying. I graduated from high school 27 years ago. I was bullied throughout my entire educational experience, and it still affects me today psychologically. So it's important for every kid. So I didn't plan to add that, but I just had to.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay. Moving on to our meeting, President's message and announcements. I do not have anything this evening, so we can go on to administrative team report.
Yes, so we have a recorded update from Elmwood Elementary, a student representative.
Hello, I'm Elena, a student in Miss Rosencrantz's 6th grade class at Elmwood Elementary. Today I would like to show some of the things we have done at our school this spring. In February, kindergarten classes continued the tradition of dressing up on their 100th day of school. Kindergartners dressed as 100-year-olds to demonstrate how much they have matured. Take a look at our adorable old-timers. This year, our brand new Literacy Family Engagement School Leadership Team sponsored our first annual Reading Comes Alive Week. Students and staff celebrated in many ways, including door decorating, special guest read-alouds,
Best report ever.
Own way. So, if you are curious about other kids, just ask.
Today I will be reading for you What If Everybody Did That by Ellen Javernick.
Elmwood's social and emotional school leadership team launched the new Citizen of the Month program. This program recognizes students that show good citizenship qualities throughout the school year. 6th grade students helped promote this program with various skits that aired on the Elmwood Today Show. One student from both virtual and in-person classrooms is selected each month and recognized during the Elmwood Today Show, the Paul Prince newsletter, and with a special prize. This past year, we haven't been able to use our makerspace for STEAM projects. However, 5th grade teacher Mr. Slenak has made it possible for his 5th grade class to still learn robotics. So I sat down with Mr. Slenak to learn more about what they are doing.
Well, they've been very excited. They've loved this because some of them have been used to doing Maker the previous years, and they're like, we're not going to get to do it this year. They were kind of sad. So being able to bring it into the classroom, the students were very excited to get that opportunity. We started with block coding, and we used different robots like just coding Sphero, moving the ball around. Then we went to Ozobots. And then recently we've done Dash and Dots, and we've done different challenges relating them with that coding type of program. And then we're also going to be focused on doing some stop motion animation, using some robots and movements. So the kids have been really excited to learn this.
This year, COVID has made it hard to do in-person events such as our yearly kindergarten orientation. So this year it was virtual for the new families. Here are some highlights. We had a good day, we had a great day, so pat yourself on the back. We had a good day, we had a great day, so pat yourself on the back. Thanks for watching this very special episode of the Elmwood Today Show. Again, I am your host, Elena, and now you know what the staff and students here at Elmwood Elementary have been doing this spring while roaring towards excellence.
So that is your Elmwood Elementary student rep update. Next to follow with Nishi's last update to the school board.
So, thanks to a generous sponsorship from our community partner, Lifetime Reality,
Ike and West will be providing free yard signs to all seniors celebrating their upcoming graduation. Those signs should be distributed this week, and you can look forward to seeing some purple and blue school spirit in New Berlin yards. Students were also given a sneak peek at their classes for the 2021 to 2022 school year, and our counselors will be hard at work helping students and families get them ready for next year. AP exams have been occurring the whole month of May, and students have been studying diligently to pass their exams. Seniors had their senior gala on May 15th at the New Berlin West Fieldhouse. Many students received raffle prizes that included AirPods Pros, Apple Watch, gift cards, and many more. For Teacher Appreciation Week, many clubs did something special for their teachers. NHS made baked goods, Student Union made videos thanking their teachers, and Ike Care Club had personalized messages. Choir had a concert last Tuesday, band had a concert last Thursday, and orchestra's preparing for their concert on the 26th. Next Monday, students and faculty have off for Memorial Day. Also, Ike Cheer claims a WACPC state championship, and lastly, Ike Dance wins state titles in both pom and jazz for the second straight year. Thank you.
Next, we have our school update. As you are aware, we've been sharing updates from each respective school. I'm proud to be able to ask Principal Angela Patterson and Associate Principal Matt Stitch to come up and share their respective updates. As you are all aware, Brady Reinke, former principal of Reagan, is now working in the district office, and that opened up the opportunity to have Angela join us. Matt is also new to the district as well, and you know, I say new, but now we're in this, I feel like we've known each other forever. So, but they've done an incredible job of leading Ronald Reagan, and they're here to share all the great happenings that are occurring there as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everybody. It is a pleasure to see many of you in person. I know we really haven't gotten a chance to get to know each other. So what we wanted to start with first was just a thank you. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of this year. Thank you for trusting us to switch jobs during a pandemic, because that's not something we would really recommend to anybody now that we're on the other side of it. But it has been truly an amazing year, and we both feel very fortunate to have landed here in New Berlin. It's really just been an amazing journey, and so we just wanted to thank you for your support. In addition to that, you really don't know who we are. So we thought we'd introduce ourselves a little bit, as this is our first time here in person this year with all of you. So as Joe said, I'm Angela Patterson, and I'm the proud principal of Ronald Reagan this year. This is my family. We live in the Brookfield area just off of Calhoun and Capitol, so I have a nice quick commute on my way to Reagan every morning. My husband Ron works for the Nestle Corporation, and we have two boys. Owen is 12 and a half, and he goes to Pilgrim Park Middle School. And my youngest son, Eamon, is a fourth grader at Burleigh Elementary. When we are not at school, we are a busy sports household, as many people can relate to, so you'll find us at the pool or on the soccer field, or just trying to catch our breath from being mom and dad taxi everywhere that we go. And we also have a lovely fur baby named Evie.
All right, and my name is Matt Stick. I am the associate principal at Ronald Reagan. I live in the Waukesha area with my wife, Crystal. I spent 8 years in the Palmyra Eagle Area School District before coming to New Berlin this past year. I worked as a fourth grade teacher and an administrator, and recently it's been an exciting year for me being hired in New Berlin. I've also got married, and I got promoted from cat dad to regular dad this past year, so very exciting.
So we wanted to share a little bit about where we started this year and then end with where we are now. So our number one goal this year was to take care of each other so that we could take care of our kids. In a year with so much uncertainty, that was our primary focus. From a goal-setting perspective, we aimed to provide continuity from last year to this year, and due to this, we kept our goals primarily the same from where Mr. Reinke had left things, to continue that continuity with our staff, considering that the end of the year ended so abruptly. With the disruption, we focused on where the winter data left us, since we did not get our spring assessments last year, and set what we felt was a reasonable estimate of growth, knowing that this year would also bring with it its own challenges. We additionally set some sub-goals that focused also on students and our staff. For our sub-goals, we looked at our Bright Bites survey data as well as our parent, staff, and student surveys from the past few years. From a student perspective, we focused on student goal setting and reflection, and we also focused on grit and mindset with our students, especially with how to respond when tasks or situations become difficult. And from a staff perspective, in a building such as ours that is so large with the pod structure, our staff had asked for more of a stronger feeling of connectedness between everyone. It's pretty easy to be in your pods and not see anybody else sometimes throughout the day, depending on where you are. So that's something that we've been working hard on this year.
Coming into this school year, Angela and I wanted to make sure that we learned more about the Ronald Reagan learning community. We looked for opportunities to build on the great work that had been done before we got there, and looked for opportunities to create consistent action steps towards improvement. To that end, we established a literacy focus based on staff feedback centered around reading conferring strategies, staff quarterly reflections, and grade level team meetings. For all of our goals, one tool that we used was a quarterly reflection document. This tool allowed everyone building-wide to see the specifics that grade levels were working on in connection to our school action plan. And that allowed us to look at grade level reflections, and it helped continue to continue to foster an environment where we look at opportunities to learn from each other. And then next, our data provides us with snapshots at precise moments in time. In order to tell the whole story, it was important to kind of know what was going on behind the scenes to build a positive culture that supports students, staff, and families. There are a lot of things that went on. One of them being a 3-2-1 interview that we started in August as new to the building administrators. That meant that we looked for or gave staff the opportunity to tell us 3 things that they wanted to know or that we wanted to know about them, 2 things that they loved about Ronald Reagan, 1 thing that we could do to support them, and 1 opportunity for growth this year. We also looked at monthly appreciations and made sure to acknowledge the hard work that was going on at Ronald Reagan, and we increased staff communication through weekly emails. Lastly, student and staff birthday cards guaranteed us some sort of connection with every student and staff member in our building, both in person and virtual. Oh, and then one more thing on my end, we want to continue with our literacy focus. So we also want to celebrate some of the amazing community connections that we have had this year. So Angela's going to take it away with that.
So like Matt said, we also wanted to continue those great relationships that Ronald Reagan has been known for with their community partnerships. And we'll start with the Education Foundation of New Berlin. We had multiple grant award winners this year, 2 that focused on our literacy initiative. We had multiple grants, one of which was a social emotional book set, and another was an increased diverse book club book set for our 4th grade students. They did also fund flexible seating in our 3rd grade pod area, which was also very exciting. Another wonderful partnership continues to be our Home and School Association. They have been tremendous in welcoming us to the school during this pandemic, as well as supporting our students and families. We have a great relationship with them. They helped. We did end up having to add multiple classes that didn't exist last year to Ronald Reagan, which was very exciting. So they did end up donating funds to be able to purchase 2 full classroom diverse libraries for our new teachers. They also funded thousands of dollars of teacher grants for flexible furniture, book sets, and more. In addition to that, they also helped fund our $15,000 makerspace furniture upgrade, which was installed this spring.
And one of our literacy goals this year was to increase reading engagement and continue a reading incentive program that Mr. Renke had started last year. So we kind of re-imaged a little bit and created the Under the Big Top Reading Challenge. The goal was to read 500,000 minutes by the end of the school year, and our students, I'm happy to report, have surpassed that goal. They are currently at 594,000 minutes, which is definitely a big deal. Students in grades K through 6 had the opportunity to use the Beanstack app to log their at-home reading minutes, and that also provides us on really good data about books that students are reading at any given time and what are the most popular books.
Another really exciting adventure for us this year was our inaugural all-school read event. This was an exciting event that Matt and I both had the opportunity to do in our previous districts as administrators, and we brought that here to Ronald Reagan. And an all-school read is an opportunity for all of our families to connect and gather around a really great piece of literature. Again, our wonderful Home and School Association helped fund one book for every family. The all-school read was a set schedule. It involved weekly trivia contests. Normally, we would like to have some more in-person events that surround that, but hopefully next year, as the tradition continues, we were able to weave in our new virtual book fair vendor, the Children's Bookstore, where we raised over $600 for classroom library books. The weekly trivia contests and book theme prizes were also popular with both our virtual and our in-person students, where over 250 students typically replied every week. And we also had an all-school read-in just this last week as we just wrapped it up, and a Dress Like Your Favorite Book Character Day.
For the past 3 years, the New Berlin Junior Women's Club put on an Adopt a Family program that provided families in need with anonymous gifts, as well as coats, gloves, and winter hats. This past year, the number of families that received gifts rose to about 16 children from 7 families due to challenges that arose from the pandemic. Special thanks goes out to Ronald Reagan's Jen Macakanja and Todd Rennick for their supporting roles with this great cause. And then moving forward, some other ways that we're giving back and staying connected to the community. Angela's going to share a few more examples.
Another strong tradition at Ronald Reagan that we wanted to continue was our student council and our Reagan Gives Back program. There were so many different ways that we could highlight, but we just want to highlight a few that occurred this year. In September, we held a Walk to End Alzheimer's fundraiser through our Reagan Gives Back program. Our student council held a food drive in November where they loaded a giant car full of food to take to the New Berlin Food Pantry. This spring, our student council ran a Pennies for Patients where they earned Pennies for Patients fundraiser and competition across the building. Can't forget the competition part. That was very exciting. They raised almost $5,200 during that 7-day time period, which brings their overall total in 10 years to $22,000. We are now just wrapping up this week with our Supplies for Soldiers, where they are collecting supplies to send overseas to soldiers that are stationed abroad.
All year, we've been taking time to celebrate and highlight monthly observances. This started this past November with Veterans Day, and it continued with Black History Month and Women's History Month. We're looking forward to building upon this next year and beyond.
Other ways that we were focusing on staying connected was by celebrating kindness weeks in November and February, where kids were able to write kind notes to each other, set kindness goals, and also reflect on what makes them special and unique. And last week, like the other schools, we had to think a little bit more creatively about our K-5 orientation for spring. And last week, we welcomed the incoming class of 2034, which is hard to believe when you say that out loud. We had a lot of parents when we said that when we met them that kind of had big shocked looks on their faces. It makes it feel a lot more real. For our incoming kindergartners, we held a drive-through event where they got to drive through the front area of Ronald Reagan and meet Matt and I. We had a welcome bag also that was helped to be funded by our wonderful Home and School Association. That week, we also sent a day in the life of kindergarten video to those incoming families, and we held a virtual Google Meet with the entire kindergarten staff, as well as Matt and myself, to be able to welcome them and to answer their questions about the upcoming year. And looking ahead, we have an orientation boot camp style for our incoming kindergartners that will take place in person. That's an optional opportunity for our families to come in and learn some of the routines, meet the kids. Other students have the teachers get to know them a little bit better as they help prepare to enter our building in the fall.
As we bring the school year to a close, Angela and I are excited to be able to continue a variety of fun traditions that have gone on in Ronald Reagan in the past, and those are going on this June and July, and we're really looking forward to them.
So that brings us full circle from where we were to now where we are. And this is the time of year that our assessments are wrapping up and the data is rolling in. And so we are constantly looking at that data to see what we see. And so Matt's going to talk about some of our sub-goals and action steps.
So now that the year is wrapping up, like Angela said, we have some really exciting things to highlight. All of our students set goals this past year. Our Bright Bites data, which is about educational technology survey data, showed that all our staff reported some positives this past year, and we're eager to analyze the formal district survey data coming up soon.
As far as our literacy goals that we set at the beginning of the year, we are currently, as we said, looking through that data as it's continuing to pour in, but some highlights that we wanted to celebrate with all of you tonight. We have so much to celebrate this year. 85% of our students are on grade level based on their running record score as of this point. We're looking at our early data in our literacy maps to compare it between running records and our reading map to help us build our school improvement plans for next year. Our early math map numbers show an increasing trend from previous years. And as we're starting to analyze our end of year intervention data, 78% of our students that are in intervention are meeting their goals, which includes 73% in reading and 93% are meeting their goals in math. As we look ahead to next year, things that we want to work on. An area of opportunity for us was that we would like to analyze multiple data points. In looking at some of the past trends, there was some really great data work there, but as a building, I think we can be digging in better with our data to help drive our instruction, so that's something we'd like to work on next year. We would also like to continue with our literacy focus, and based off of our staff feedback this year, we hope to target our work around common assessments, rubrics, analysis of that information, as well as conferring techniques and documentation within the workshop model. In addition, we're going to be exploring opportunities to add more diversity to our classroom libraries and work with staff on analyzing text through that lens. And finally, we look forward to more in-person opportunities for connection with our staff, families, and students. And that brings us to a close. Any questions?
I think what I can say is, we operate as a professional learning community in the school district, and I think the work that's being done with Angela and Matt leading the way at Reagan on behalf of our students, staff, and their families, they're focused on results and they're focused on continuous improvement, and I think that was evidenced here today. And it's not just about standardized testing; it's well beyond that. We're focusing on students' well-being. We're focusing on their opportunities of service and giving back, and certainly all the other examples that they shared, but it's certainly more than just a test score. And again, extremely proud of not only having these two joining our administrative team, but certainly they've proven that they've been able to deliver, and certainly the right choice for the job. So,
Thanks, Joe.
So with that, I guess, congratulations on a great school year thus far. Hopefully we can kind of wrap up as you have on top of things, and any questions from the board. Let's just say that that's a really good thing.
Yes, you're outstanding. Thank you.
Okay.
So thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, up next, Superintendent's update.
Yeah, so I do have a couple of items that I wanted to share, and I apologize, I'm not checking my Facebook. I'm actually looking at my notes here. There are a couple things that I wanted to talk about. One specifically was the mode of learning change that occurred as a result of the school board's decision last week, and I wanted to provide an update on those numbers. The one thing that I want to clarify is that all year long, we were prepared to be able to move from one mode of operation to another, literally at a moment's notice. And we've successfully been able to navigate that all school year. And that was evidenced, one, in when we started the school year in a hybrid model, and then moved to a full 5-day face-to-face. And then throughout the entire school year, when students had to quarantine, we literally had to change that mode of delivery of instruction literally that moment. Now, in some cases, depending on a parent situation, it may be a day or two transition to get them through that. Again, we went from 14-day quarantines down to 7 to 10 days of quarantine, so certainly that changed. But again, we were prepared all year long. Our staff were prepared all year long just in case something happened. And specifically, we had 9 students switch to virtual learning throughout the entire school district. as a result of the change. And then
Sorry, Joe,
at
did you say 9?
9
Okay.
across all elementary schools. And then at the secondary, we had 8 students that switched to virtual learning option as a result. And then we also had 3 students that actually chose to return to school face-to-face at the secondary level as a result of the change. So again, just wanted to provide those numbers to you as a result of the change that was made and approved at last week's special board meeting. The second item I'd like to share is that of the Wisconsin Advanced Placement Advisory Council. Basically, they are the state's advanced placement, basically housing unit when it relates to both representing Wisconsin DPI and all of the CSAs throughout the state. I'm extremely proud to be able to say that West and Ike have both once again received the Level 1 AP Paysetter Award for student AP access and excellence in AP exam scores. Again, extremely proud of the work that's being done at Ike and West, but again, it's also a testament to the foundation that's built at all of our elementary schools and preparing our students for said success in advanced placement. I will share, and again, I shared my dismay with the board and with U.S. News and World Report and the College Board who supports advanced placement. As you are all aware, Eisenhower ranked number 3 per U.S. News and World Report as far as the top high school in the state. West was not ranked or ranked quite low, and that was because there was an error made by the College Board and the AP not providing their respective data to U.S. News and World Report. Now, we are working to remedy that, but my point is this. If we're getting this AP Paysetter Award, which recognizes West for the incredible job that they're doing with regard to AP, and that was neglected from the criteria that was shared with U.S. News and World Report, we're extremely confident that West would have represented quite well as they typically have in the past in those state rankings. But again, as of now, we continue to make some inroads with the College Board and U.S. News and World Report. But in lieu of that, I did want to be able to at least share this with you, that both Ike and West are, again, representing as they typically have, and they are delivering the results that our community has expected for years. We are, as Nishi mentioned, we're kind of wrapping up a lot of the senior and end of year opportunities for our students. We had 2, what I would call very successful prom/senior galas that were had, both Ike and West, over at West, and it went well, despite the location. But again, we are actually in the midst of solidifying graduation plans. As you all know, graduation will be held on June 11th at 6:30 p.m. for West, and then June 12th for New Berlin Eisenhower at 1:30 p.m. Amy will be the board's representative at Ike's graduation and will be accepting the class, and Janet will be the board representative at the West graduation. They both have graduates that are participating, and I myself have one participating this year also. So that's interesting, exciting, and all that fun stuff. So with that, that ends my update until we get to the items on the agenda.
Then we had a committee update. We had our first personnel committee meeting last week. Kate, if you would share your update, please.
Sure, this is in the board packet as well. So we had a meeting last Monday afternoon. We had a few items on the agenda, so we talked a lot about our committee goals and timelines and agenda items that we wanted to have throughout the year. We looked back at some of the annual topics that we've had over the last couple years, as well as our open items that we've been working on, and kind of set a schedule, which I will go through in a second. We also talked a little bit about our health benefits consultant and some changes that'll be coming up in that area. We'll be discussing that further in June, as well as again in September with a final recommendation to the board. We did a review of policy 4132, which is publication of articles. The committee and administration agreed that these details really belong in the employee handbook as opposed to a specific policy. So our plan is to have Nicole include that along with her whatever 2022 employee handbook changes she brings to us in February. And we'll bring it back to the board at that point, and likely remove the policy once we have it in the handbook. We did a preliminary review of the Paladina health plan ROI. Paladina is now called Everside, so I'm going to call it that going forward. We're going to get a full presentation in June from Nicole, and then we'll share it with the board at that time. We also continued discussion about superintendent evaluation tools, and talked about timing for a demo from WASB on their tool, exploring that as a possible option. So Diana worked on getting that scheduled for us. So our plan for the remainder of this year, we're going to have a meeting June 7th where we will have that WASB superintendent evaluation demo. We'll be discussing some staff survey results and state interview data. We'll have an update on the health benefits consultant. We'll do a policy review and lay out which policy, because we're going to talk about that a little bit later tonight. And then in September, we will meet again, and we're going to talk about exit interview data from staff. I must have said this wrong. Okay, I think the full Everside analysis won't be till September, sorry. So I have that on the September agenda. We will get the final recommendation on the health benefits consultant and do some more policy reviews. In January, we'll do the health insurance plan changes, as well as more policy reviews. And then February, if needed, and probably will be needed since there will at least be one employee handbook change. So we'll do the employee handbook changes, any contract non-renewals that need to be discussed, any wage comparisons that need to be discussed, and then any remaining policies. So I think there's like 9 personnel policies left, and we're going to try and work our way through those this year. Any questions?
That was really thorough. Thank you. I like that you put that even in a actual written report.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Okay. Then we'll move on to district reports. Mr. Seidel, could you read the donation report, please? Thank you.
All right, here's the following donations were accepted by the School District of New Berlin on 4/8/2021. The school was New Berlin West. It was an ADDO Institute to support the Chick-fil-A Impact Project in the amount of $750. The approved date was 4/27/2021. The next was, the school was Eisenhower. The donor was Edward and Jill DeFrance. Support Teacher Appreciation Week with Teacher Appreciation gift cards in the amount of $1,200. And the approved date was 4/28. The next one was 4/21/2021. Kello Corporation Barry Hintz to support the purchase of picnic tables in the amount of $3,000, and the approval date was 4/29/2021. The next one was 3/26/2021. The donor was Ronald Reagan Home and School, support books for the all-school read in the amount of $2,902.25, and the approval date was 4/12/2021. The final one was 3/26/2021 for Ronald Reagan Home and School to purchase Maker's Space furniture in the amount of $15,000, and their approval date was 4/12/2021. The total donations accepted was $22,852.25, and that ends my report.
Thank you, and thank you very much to all the donors. Anybody else have any questions about the reports before we move on? Okay. Then we have our consent agenda, which includes the notice to approve the minutes of May 10th and approve the minutes of May 18th. Also includes the April financial reports and New York City art field trip, which is nice to see another field trip on the schedule for next year. So are there any items that should be pulled out for separate consideration?
I did want to just clarify that for the art trip, We are recommending approval of the proposed art class field trip to New York City in March of 2022. This is for both Eisenhower and West students having taken an art class. Obviously, we've provided the details in your packet.
If there's nothing to be pulled out for separate consideration, do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Helmer, a second by Mr. Seidel to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Just want to remind you that we did change a little bit how we're doing the financial reports. Previously, the Finance Committee was reviewing them, and now going forward, we're having anybody on the board send their email questions to Joe and Patrick, and then they will provide the answers for us, and it would be added to the packet, I believe, correct? So that it's public record, so everybody can see the answers.
Yeah, so we would provide those after the board had approved the respective financials.
Okay, good, thank you.
And we did receive Krislin's questions. Unfortunately, we didn't get to them today, but we will get them to you as soon as we are able.
In fairness, I sent them this morning, so you didn't have a lot of time. So
we'll get them to you.
I know you will.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any discussion further? Okay, so hearing none, all those in favor, we're going to call the roll since we have Jeff on the phone. So if you could call the roll, please.
Mr. Helmer,
Yes.
Mr. Seidel,
Yes.
Ms. Crosby,
Yes.
Mr. Kurth,
Yes.
Ms. Scholes,
Yes.
Ms. Unger,
Yes.
Ms. Wondercheck.
Yes.
Motion passes. On to our regular agenda. First regular agenda item is to discuss possible action on the clarification of quarantine mitigation efforts for the remainder of the 2020-2021 school year.
So the reason why I brought this back to the board is there was a question asked, I think specifically Kate had asked, how we would plan on moving forward with quarantine. At that time, I had mentioned to the board that on the next day, which was last week, Wednesday, that I was going to be meeting with the county health department as I typically would, as well as other Waukesha County school district superintendents. And so as a result of that, that's why it's on the agenda tonight. And we are essentially seeking clarification on which direction the board would like to go as it relates to quarantining at whatever point the board wishes. So as you are aware, back on May 11th, the county did update its guidance as it related to quarantining. I'm not going to get into all of it. Please note that the county actually stepped away from the CDC as well as the state health department and utilized essentially feedback and data from our school districts to be able to make a decision, to be able to make the change that any close contacts while at school did not have to, they were not recommended to quarantine. So that was essentially the change. And again, you should have been aware of that because that was way back when on May 11th. And then, as a result of that, what I believe Kate was getting at is we're now no longer essentially aligned with the county as it relates to, because of the change that was made last week, namely mask wearing. What would that do as a result of it? And Kate, I don't want to speak for you, but that was how I interpreted your question. And so in following up with some of the other school districts as well as the county again, even in this capacity as it relates to quarantines, it is a recommendation. It is not a requirement. Now, we were requiring them in our practice based on those recommendations. But again, all of the the mitigation efforts are recommendations only and not requirements. I do know that some of the superintendents were unclear that, they assumed that Actually, the county was requiring these efforts as far as the quarantining piece, but again, they clarified that it was only a recommendation to do so. So what are some of the other school districts doing that are similar in status to the school district of no longer requiring masks and instead recommending them? Waukesha essentially has done away with any and all quarantining. And they're essentially leaving it up to individuals to make that determination. Obviously, there are a lot of caveats to this. So, for example, if your kid is sick, keep them home or keep them home as long as you can. Or if you think, they may have COVID, then you should probably keep them home. Elmbrook had not made a change as of this afternoon, but I do know that their school board will be reviewing this, just like many other school boards are doing tonight as well. As far as
real quick on that, Joe. So is Elmbrook doing 14-day quarantine, 10-day quarantine, or 7-day quarantine?
They're still doing the 7 to 10 days.
Okay.
Essentially, they're doing what was approved by or at least suggested by the county on May 11th. They've not changed from that as of now. Muskego kind of has a bifurcated approach, which is not the doing away with all the quarantines like Waukesha, but has diverted slightly from what Elmbrook is doing. And they are essentially anybody that's a close contact while at school does not have to quarantine, which really essentially isn't a significant change. And then, surely they're strongly encouraging anybody to do kind of these other things that, again, I won't read to you. But again, in some cases, Mitch, like in this case, parents and guardians may quarantine their student for up to 14. It says up to 14 days, but again, the way that we had left it, we were at 7 to 10 days. And then McGuanago, I know that they had a special board meeting, I believe, last week Wednesday, to go from mask required to mask recommended. They've got a board meeting tonight. So again, that's what some of the other school districts are doing. Essentially, there are, in my opinion, 3 options. Of course, there's probably a million different ways you can kind of slice this thing. One is just continue with what we're currently doing. That's one option. The second option is essentially doing away with any and all quarantines, regardless of where you happen to become a close contact, and that's like what Waukesha has adopted. And then there's a third option, which is go all the way back to what we were doing pre-May 11th and, essentially go back to the original approach of quarantining regardless of where you're at as a requirement. So, again, we're seeking clarification of which direction the board would like to go. Again, you can tell us whether you want any changes yet for this year. Obviously, we're going to be talking about summer school as the next another agenda item here forthcoming. So again, we as of last week Thursday, when we shared documentation with our families, we left it as it was, letting families know though that the board would be taking the quarantining piece up at tonight's board meeting. So again, I guess I leave you with these 3 for your consideration, and again, we'd like some direction from the board as to how we should move forward.
Would anybody like to make a motion to approve any of these options?
I move to amend quarantine practices to eliminate all close contact quarantining regardless of where exposure took place following the Waukesha.
Second. So I have a motion by Mr. Helmer and a second by Mr. Kurth. A discussion. We're on to discussion now.
So, Joe, in that case, really it's the same as ours. It's just, it's not required outside of school if there's a close contact, is the difference?
Correct.
But that's self-regulated by parents.
Yeah, so, and again, just one of the things that I want to clarify to the board is how this all works. If students are a close contact outside of the school, so whether it's their household or somewhere in the community, families notify us if their kid was a respective close contact. The county does not, reach out to us and say, hey, Dominic Garza is a close contact. Instead, we hear from Mr. and Mrs. Garza of whether, their respective student was a close contact or not. Now, I do want to clarify, if you're going in this direction, again, some of the administrative pieces that go with it is we're still going to contact trace, and we're going to still, if we find out, we're going to let families know, and they need to make, if this is the option that the board is choosing to go, then again, just like some of these other districts have all these layers, if your kid's sick, keep them home. If your kid, we're really going to need families to work with us, and, obviously there are suggestions as far as what should take place if this is the direction we should go. Keep your kid home, or try and keep them home for at least 7 days, or 6 days and get a negative test result. Essentially, that's what we've been already doing as far as at least anybody outside of the school setting. So, again, just wanted to clarify that.
Now, we already had some data on how many of those close contacts turned into positive cases, if I recall correctly. That's been tracked for our district.
It was none.
Okay.
It was none from school exposure or none period?
From school exposure.
Okay, so we don't really know how many of the outside school exposures resulted in COVID cases.
Well, probably all of them. I mean, right? Someone got COVID from someone. So any exposure outside is what they would have resulted in.
Well, yeah, but not every outside exposure. I'm saying how many exposures from not in school resulted in COVID, not all of them, but I agree. All of the COVID cases we saw in our schools came from exposure elsewhere. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that outside exposure is 100% guaranteed you're going to get COVID, or 0%. So I appreciate you bringing this, Joe, and following up on the question that I had. I am very concerned with the removal of masks, especially because we've seen it result in less than 50% of kids wearing masks. So I would prefer option 1, or really option 3, but I would settle for option 1. Option 2 feels like we're saying the pandemic is over and everyone can come to school whenever, and I understand that parents are supposed to self-report, and they are to some degree right now. I fear that it will go to nothing, and that nothing will ever be reported, and no one will keep their kids home, and we're going to see outbreaks in our schools. So I will vote no to option 2.
And I'm sure it's no surprise. I agree with Kate Unger. The pandemic isn't over. And so I think that it's a bit foolish to vote for option 2 at this stage. I think, like all parents, I am very excited about a time we can return to all normalcy for everyone. I think everybody believes that that's a great idea, but we have to do it in the right timing. So I will not vote for this motion either.
Final comment. I don't know if I'm final, but I agree that I would stick with option 1 for this school year, to continue this school year, but look to see what we want to do for summer school and for the next school year, if we want to continue doing what we're doing or amend the quarantine practices for the school years. So I would vote for option 1 for this school year, and then look to see for summer school and the fall what option we want to do.
And Mitch, as a point of clarification, you were your motion was based off of assuming option 2 effective ASAP. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, I mean, effective tonight.
Okay.
So I just want to clarify. So option one, we are not requiring close contacts outside of school for quarantining. So basically, it's just a difference in verbiage between 1 and 2. Is that for recommend versus eliminate? I mean,
No, right now we are requiring anybody that's not in a school setting that's identified as a close contact to
self-report it.
Yep, self-reported to quarantine 7 to 10 days.
Any other discussion? Jeff, I just want to make sure that you're heard if you have anything to say.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Wasn't there an open records request from an organization, and they tracked all this data? Do you recall? I thought there was an organization that tracked all this, and it turned out that
I think it was a records request that was sent to the county health department, I believe.
Okay.
Do you recall any other one for the school district anyway, Dana?
because I thought I remember seeing some data that showed both close contact within the schools and outside, and how each of them resulted in a actual positive case, and how the outside school close contact was just a tiny bit. There was just a few, but it wasn't very large. So I'm just wondering if it's significant enough to actually stick with option one. I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say, unless we actually have the data you're referring to, I don't know that we should discuss it as being persuasive for any argument.
Okay, I was just asking if he was aware of it,
I
if he
just
knew
didn't know
it.
if we had it, so that's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to what Mitch said earlier, if all of our COVID cases in school came from outside exposure, clearly kids are getting COVID somewhere. Is it sleepovers? Is it sports practices? I mean, to say that we're not gonna require quarantines for any type of exposure just seems a little bit extreme.
So I guess my closing argument is we've trusted parents for 100 years to make this decision on their kids, so I think we have to continue doing that and let our parents monitor their kids. And if they're sick, I think Joe said it perfectly. Keep them home, please. We want to keep these schools open. We want to try to minimize the spread as much as possible, but we also, I can't support taking kids out of school any more than we have. They've lost so much school this year, so mandatory quarantines for 14 days, I can't get behind that if we don't have any reason to think that they're going to be spreading it in the schools.
I mean, I think the reason is the county saying we should do it. I know they're not requiring it, but the health department is still recommending that we keep the outside exposure quarantine. So I think we should be following what the health department is telling us to do. And I understand you guys don't want to follow the CDC. We want to follow our local county department. So why would we not follow what they're recommending?
Well, that doesn't stop the parents from following the recommendations. So the parents really should be following the CDC. We as a school shouldn't have to enforce the recommendation. The parents should be following it.
In an ideal world, they would, but I think every single parent has given their kid Tylenol at one point and sent them to daycare with a fever. I mean, parents can't always be trusted, and it shouldn't be, your well, not my child because he's not there, but children should not be at risk because other parents aren't going to follow the rules. Let's vote, because I'm going to lose, so let's vote.
Sure. We don't know. So I'm going to restate the motion. So I have a motion for option 2 to amend the quarantine practices to eliminate all close contact quarantining, regardless of where exposure took place, to be in place immediately. So all those, I'm sorry, take the roll, please.
Mr. Helmer,
Yes.
Mr. Kurth,
Yes.
Ms. Crosby,
No.
Ms. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Seidel,
Yes.
Ms. Unger,
No.
Ms. Wondercheck.
No.
Okay, motion passes 4-3. Next up, we have discussed possible action on COVID mitigation planning for summer school and school-sponsored summer athletics and activities.
So bringing us way back to 2 weeks ago, the board had asked that we bring forth a plan for summer school and school-sponsored athletics and activities based on reeling back on some of the mitigation strategies. And so that is what we're here to do. Again, just want to, we've started each and every one of our COVID updates with the data itself. As you are aware, we were in peak mode back in November for both student cases and student quarantines. Certainly much different today than it was back then. Similarly, with our staff, trends again, we essentially saw that significant increase in COVID cases back in November, and certainly much different today. This is what I've already shared with the school board as it related to summer school survey results, so I'm not going to get into all the detail. But again, these were the number of respondents, and this is how the survey data broke out specific to suggestions or the way that the respective parents were moving forward as far as for their expectations with mitigation efforts. And we specifically dove into masking, and again, as was mentioned earlier, you did have about 60% of families that would be willing to send their kids as they would without that mitigation strategy. So again, want to clarify that what we're looking at is not just summer school, but we're also looking at any school-sponsored activities, such as, you heard Angela talk about some of the kindergarten orientation days coming up. We would assume that those would also be enveloped with these new mitigation strategies, as well as our middle school camps. We also then do have summer co-curricular. So for example, you've got your summer marching band camp, you've got your summer off-season workouts for all of our sports, and then you also have, other extracurriculars as well. At this time, non-school sponsored activities on our school grounds can determine their mitigation strategies as long as they are not less than what we have in place. So for example, somebody had emailed us asking about things like Camp Invention. If Camp Invention wants to, because it is their respective program and it's not the school district's, they can implement whatever mitigation strategies they would like. Again, all we're doing is renting out facilities to them. So again, let's say the chess club wants to rent out the Elmwood cafeteria. They are not necessarily directly linked, and so they can put in whatever mitigation strategies they see appropriate. Again, I'm not going to read these to you, but essentially we have rationales and strategies in place. This presentation was shared with you last week, where face masks would continue to be recommended and not required. And then just want to clarify that any disability-related concern regarding masking should continue to be addressed with the building administration for consideration by the student's IEP or 504 teams. I want to clarify one thing, and I know that the board has received an email or two related to student safety concerns based off of a student that's medically fragile or has medical conditions. All of those are not, the school board is not the body that gets involved with those decisions. And neither is it up to me to get into those decisions. That's actually a local IEP team's decision for that specific student. And so that is what we are communicating to those respective families that have that concern. And again, we're handling it with that respective IEP or 504 team. Certainly, we can do other things like we have throughout the school year, hand sanitizing, cleaning, and other safety strategies, which I have shared here. Again, we mentioned, things like family expectations. And again, we're highlighting that people keep their kids home if they're sick, just like we've done all along. Obviously, based on the decision that was just made, I'm going to assume that the contact tracing and quarantine will change to what was just approved. So that will be updated in this document before it goes out based on, again, the decision that was just made. And at least for the summer, we're going to limit our guests. We really don't do a lot of field trips over the summer, so it's not like we're changing anything significant at this time. And we're also limiting visitors, which again, we typically would anyway. And then meetings, again, we're going to continue to do them virtually. Quite honestly, in some cases, I think this is something that we're not going to necessarily require moving forward, but encourage for feasibility and just being conscious of our time and our efforts. Certainly, I think there's always a time for a face-to-face meeting with our respective parents as needed, but this is something that we'll consider moving forward. And as we enter in next school year, particularly, and how we move forward with that. We will have also virtual programming options available to all that requested summer school. But note that not all summer school courses may be available. There will be some slight limitations where it wouldn't be advantageous to offer a particular course virtually. And then, we kind of got into the classroom structures, again, mitigation efforts with what we're doing, at least at the elementary. And then we clarified, again, transportation. Again, because of federal regulations, we are continuing to mask during any school-sponsored transportation. And then at the secondary, we've provided, again, classroom structure here as well. I do want to clarify as it relates to social distancing. Certainly, we're going to continue social distancing to the best that we can. We certainly can't always oblige by that just because of certain settings and so on. So with that, we would recommend, with the caveat of the change to quarantine, similar to what was just approved, to implement said summer school plan as presented. And then again, the next steps would be that we would bring forth additional information to the board as it relates to how we're going to re-enter next fall, and we would do that at the July's board meeting. So again, we would recommend approval of the plan as presented with the changes to quarantining protocols as was just approved.
Do I have a motion?
Can I ask a question first?
Sure.
So, to summarize this presentation, basically the recommendation for summer school is to keep everything, including what we voted on tonight. So really no changes for summer school other than the changes that we just made in the last 2 weeks.
Correct.
Okay.
And then below here it says board action regarding summer school. So do you want that all as one motion, or is just this packet cover just the summer school? Because it is.
Yeah, this is just summer school. So again, we won't be bringing next school year's.
No, because it says board action regarding summer school and school-sponsored athletic.
It would be that too.
Okay, that's what I was.
Yes, thank you.
So, should I make a motion? Go ahead. I move to implement this summer school plan as presented, to include summer school and schools-sponsored activities and athletics, with the changes of quarantine changes voted on tonight and passed. To be effective immediately, I guess.
For summer school. So I have a motion by Mr. Helmer, a second by Mr. Kurth. Any discussion?
I won't vote for that. I think that the thing that I'm stuck on is the fact that we made a point of doing the survey. I think that the way that the survey was worded was a little bit confusing to me and I think it looks like it was confusing to the respondents as well, because in the first question, it looks like 71% of all of our elementary respondents said that they wanted to keep all the same mitigation strategies. 71% said keep it all the same, which meant masking and quarantining and all of the stuff that we were doing all school year. Secondary respondents said 65% of them said, let's keep it all the same. Let's make sure we do the same things we did throughout the school year, helped keep us open. We want to keep those things and stay open. And then the next question was asked and said, well, would you come anyway if we change some of those things? Which seemed like sort of a weird question when you already asked the question, do you want us to keep everything the same? It's just like, I thought it was confusing. So I think that the first question that was asked tells me more of what I think people who are actually the population who's doing this activity wants. So when we ask those people, I mean, it's like what, 300 people, a little more than 300 students, or 300 respondents that we had. I don't know how many students are totally enrolled because I don't think we have that data. But the 300 respondents said 71% and 65% keep everything the same. And here we are voting to change everything. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I won't vote for it. And I do think it's a little bit of a bait and switch for the customers that came to us and said, we want to participate in this product because we were told that the mitigation strategies are going to be the same. So if they're going to be the same, we want to do it. And they signed up, and they decided to forego other summer opportunities in lieu of the summer school opportunity. And now we change the rules on them if this motion is passed. So that doesn't seem fair. And I think that's, I disagree with that methodology. So I won't vote for it.
So I think back in June when we were looking at numbers, we were accused of using old data. And I think this is old data here too. I think the survey's 3-4 weeks old now. Is it older than that? Vaccination rates are up. COVID cases are down in Waukesha County. So I think this data is moving. And I think the fall 2021 numbers that we just got back from the surveys you just got show even stronger than this, that everyone is starting to move more and more towards that. So.
Anything else? One thing that's been said about this situation way back last summer was that it's a constantly flexible situation in moving. And it's been said basically by our superintendent over and over, this is a flexible situation. This is a very flowing situation. I don't think any promises were ever made. And this is just how it is. We have new data coming out constantly, and we're just needing to adjust. And so, I'm in favor of us continuing with what we've already put in place right now to continue it through the school year. If there's no other discussion. I'm sorry. Oh, thank you, Jeff. Okay. Sorry, I forgot about you. Sorry. Any other questions or comments? Discussion. We'll take.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
Okay. I just sort of want to kind of what you were saying, Janet. This whole situation from the beginning has been fluid. When we've had to make stronger restrictions on things, there wasn't an argument that we had to be stronger on the restrictions that we put into place. And when things get better, we should be able to lighten up those restrictions as well and stay fluid with that situation and with the data. We keep being told we need to follow the science, but we're following the science. It's all showing that this is fading. It's fading fast. There's not that many more cases. We know the kids aren't nearly as at risk. All of our teachers have been vaccinated or given the option to have vaccinations as well. I think we're in a place to be able to make these decisions and stay fluid like we have been. That's why I'm supporting this decision.
All right.
Can I make a comment? So I am mostly okay with the changes at the secondary level, because at the secondary level, our students all now have an option to get vaccinated. If they want to protect themselves against COVID, they can have a vaccine prior to the start of summer school. Where I have an issue with summer school and fall as well is in the elementary school, because those students cannot yet get vaccinated. So I will be voting against this because we're not voting separately on elementary and secondary, but I do not support removing these mitigation efforts until all of our students have an option to be vaccinated.
All right, then if we're ready to take the vote, please call the roll.
Mr. Helmer?
Yes.
Mr. Kurth?
Yes.
Ms. Crosby?
Yes.
Ms. Scholes,
Yes.
Mr. Seidel,
Yes.
Ms. Unger,
No.
Ms. Wondercheck.
No.
Motion passes 5-2. On to discuss possible action on the recommendation from administration regarding policy prioritization.
So at the last board meeting, the board had tasked the administration to bring forth a policy review plan. And in working not only like Kate and the personnel committee, I think we're starting to kind of get a good footing on how we're going to be moving forward with these specific policy reviews. As you are aware, policy review is an ongoing process. We often work in conjunction with guidelines provided by Neola, who is a policy service, when creating, revising, and removing policies. We have about 125 policies, and about half have not been updated since 2011. But know that any urgent or pressing policies, at least to date, for the most part, have been brought forward to the board as it relates to the policy review. Our goal is to develop an ongoing plan and a schedule to review and revise or delete when necessary existing policies. So what we decided to do was we wanted to categorize respective policies in the following manner. One, anything that needs to be urgent or just deleted and that needs the board's attention would be something that we would prioritize. As you heard, based on like Kate's cadence for the personnel committee has a plan to address their 9 respective policies. I do know that Finance Committee met again tonight, now with Ron as the chair, and so we'll look forward, and again, I didn't attend that meeting, but again, we'll get their cadence on their respective policies, and then we also have the Facilities Committee as well that would kind of need to get their cadence in place. And then for because there are still obviously other policies that are non-committee that don't fit within any one of those 3, and that is something that I would be bringing forward to you as the full board to review. And again, what we're looking at is a review of the board determined number of policies with the board quarterly, based on basically 2 things: urgency and basically by date, which is something that, again, I know like the Finance Committee, when Crislin, and I think Kate, you were just looking at the oldest ones and bringing them to the top. And again, actually most of the finance, I believe, policies have been gone through, so I don't think there's a lot of work that needs to be done there, at least. But again, we'll be bringing the older ones forward. So at least for finance and operations, these were the ones that we felt we should have another look at, or at least a review of. And again, I'm not going to read all of these to you, but again, we're using the criteria that we mentioned. These would be the ones. And again, when we say urgent attention, it's not like we're out of compliance or out of anything in particular. It's just these are what we chose to prioritize. And then these would be, for as far as the students in program and instruction, this is something that the full board would be reviewing. These would be the ones that we would recommend bringing forth. And then personnel, I think Kate mentioned we have like 5 or 6 to review, and I know one of them we were looking to actually just delete. So, but again, these are the ones that we were looking at least for the personnel committee. And then, again, this is something that we would be bringing forth to the entire school board. These would be the ones that we would suggest that need more of the board's immediate attention. And so with that, I guess what we would like to do is, once we have a good idea, now like, for example, Ron with the finance, these are the ones we would suggest, and Patrick can work with that team on that. Kate's already got a kind of plan in place. We'll wait to meet with the facilities committee to make that determination. And And so we would ask that whenever the next facilities committee meet, that this would be a topic of their next agenda when they meet. With that, I guess we would like a formal approval from the board, or at least give us your blessing, or do you agree or not? And are any other comments, questions, concerns that you would have as relates to our recommended plan?
I know at our work session, you pretty much did what we asked you to do. So I think what we all discussed was, bring us sort of a plan of action here, what you have for us to tackle this year. And then we were going to decide, did we want to, continue doing that as a full board? And if we want to make any motions, we can. If you have suggestions, if anyone here wants to make a motion to how many policies we tackle per meeting, if there's any suggestions there, if we want to make that formal, any discussion there right now.
Quick question. Can you have Andy start working on going through any of the facilities ones and get that teed up for us? And then
Yeah, actually, Patrick, so we've already had cursory reviews of them. So we'll know, and again, based off of that cursory review is when Patrick brought these that we mentioned here of the ones needing the most attention, at least from the facility side. So yes, we actually have edited recommendations already for each of these. I guess what I would like is the next 12 to 18 months, is that a goal that we can set to have at least touched each one of these between now and then at least with that parameter, the committees themselves can then set their cadence, and then we as the administrative team bringing those other ones to the full board, we can then determine, okay, in order for us to meet that goal, here's how many we would need to bring forth to the full board as needed.
My goal was 2 years is what I kind of thought to get through.
24 months?
Through all of them? Not just the ones they have listed here?
Yeah, because I think
All
there's a
of them.
bunch of benign ones that we don't really need to get through that are that big. But
I think Kelly and Patrick are breathing a sigh of relief when you said that, so.
Well, 'cause I mean, every 2 years we shouldn't go through every one of our policies. I don't think that that's sustainable going on. So I think we got to kind of set a precedent now that we got to get through some of these because they are older.
Sure.
I think a little bit quicker, but I think probably a schedule of every 5 years or so, we should probably be kind of cycling through some of these.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe every 3 years, every policy should be reviewed. So I appreciate this list. The way that the urgent items are broken down doesn't exactly align with the committees that we have. So like I know public use of school facilities is listed under finance and operations, and that to me is really more of a facilities policy. So, and then the students and programs doesn't really apply to any committee at all. So I do just think that it's more than the final bylaws relations that would need to be reviewed by the full board. So I don't know if we want
To that point, I don't know that abused and neglected children fall under finance or operations either.
Yeah, I thought the student program
that's basically
instruction
what
would
I'm
be the
saying
full
is-
board. That would
Right. I feel like there are some of these that are finance and some that are facilities. The personnel ones are a little bit clearer what they are, but I feel like there's a lot of the ones listed in this presentation that we would want to probably review as a full board. So I don't know if maybe we tackle these urgent ones over the next year and then look at some of the other ones for kind of the second year, or however we want to lay that out. And then the committees keep going with whatever falls under the committee. So we're at least getting through those. And ideally, we consolidate or remove a bunch of policies that aren't necessary, so that going forward, the list that we're trying to cycle through every X years is less than what we currently have. I think a bunch of the personnel stuff is probably going to end up being able to just go in the handbook, which is really where it belongs anyway.
Okay, so the listing that, Joe, that you have for us here are things that you were thinking the full board was going to do, or are we thinking that this finance and operations would be split between finance and facilities?
Again, we would have finance focus on the finance, facilities focus on the facilities, and then the ones that we don't have a committee for, the full board we would bring to the full board.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify, making sure I
The
understood that.
problem we have is Neola breaks them into categories.
Right.
And those don't align with our.
None.
So Diana's putting them into
Right.
Neola, but we don't have Neola committees.
Yeah, so what we can do though is, back to Kate's point, some of them obviously belong in a certain spot. Maybe we can go back and then just clarify, hey, facilities committee, we think these should be for you. Hey, finance committee, we think these should be for you, even they're identified in this transition from old board policies to the new Neola ones.
Okay. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah, the ones at finance that we're currently going to be looking at is 1324 fundraising, 5135 student fees and charges, and 6144-2 Title I services. So we're going to start with the student fees and services in June and start working on those three right away.
Okay. So then, is there a motion to approve the administration's recommendation for policy updates?
And again, I would like to highlight what Kate just mentioned, is that the urgent ones, maybe we would take the next 12 months to focus on, which have been listed here. Now, obviously, anything can become urgent based on a law change, statutory change, or a recommendation from WASB or legal counsel. Obviously, we had to update things because of COVID, so obviously just want to make sure that we reserve the right to add things as needed.
Correct.
But that we'll focus the next 12 months based on these, and then the 12 months after would be the rest that haven't been identified as urgent at this point.
Motion to approve the policy review plan as presented with flexibility for Joe to adjust things as needed.
Second.
So I have a motion by Mr. Helmer and a second by Mr. Kurth. Any more discussion on this?
Yeah, I'd like to, you brought up how often would you be reviewing the policies at that point? And should that be part of the motion that you're looking for?
Yeah, I feel like the whole motion should be more of like a SMART goal. Like, we are going to take these recommendations and review them in the next 12 months, and we're going to do X number per meeting so that we meet that goal. Like, just approving this, I feel like isn't necessarily enough. I feel like it needs to be more specific. What are we actually going to do? And then
I guess what we would ask is, now that we at least have this general direction, we can get into more detail of here's like mapping out the rest of the next 12 months. We can say, here's when we would like to have certain things done by each committee. I mean, like you have already mapped out all yours for at least the next 8 months or so. I mean, I think if we can have that from each committee, I mean, I think Ron, you were looking at having some sort of cadence too. So maybe now that we have this, I can bring at least a little bit more detail of here's how we plan on getting through the next 12 months with these respective policies.
So you could withdraw
There's about 30 in here. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we can add to get through this in the next year.
So
I think that's.
I'm just wondering if you'd like to withdraw your motion and let the administration come back with an idea of how many per meeting they think they need us to be
We can do that.
approving, and then having a better idea of which committee is going to take on what.
Exactly.
That sound good? Okay. Would you like to withdraw your?
I move to withdraw my motion.
It's accepted. Your withdrawal is accepted then. So we didn't have to take action. I mean, it was a possible. All right. So if we'll hold this then to a future meeting, and on to items discussed in closed session. So we do have a motion for closed session.
I move to approve the employment services report as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Ms. Crosby and a second by Mr. Helmer. Please call the roll.
Ms. Crosby.
Yes.
Mr. Helmer.
Yes.
Mr. Kurth.
Yes.
Ms. Schulz.
Yes.
Mr. Seidel.
Yes.
Ms. Unger.
yes.
Ms. Wondercheck.
Yes.
Motion passes. Future meetings and dates. Board meetings are generally held the second and fourth Mondays, beginning at 7:00 p.m. in the Eisenhower Commons unless noted otherwise. Next meeting is, there's June 7th, there's a Personnel Committee meeting, which will be held virtually. And then regular board meeting June 14th and June 28th. Some other important events and dates to remember: June 7th, I'm sorry, I already mentioned this, it's Personnel Committee meeting. I think I put down the wrong dates. Let me read it in my other. I copied it wrong, sorry. So the other important events and dates: May 31st is Memorial Day, there's no school. And then June 11th is the West High School graduation in the field house at 6:30 p.m. And June 12th is the Eisenhower High School graduation in the New Berlin West field house at 1:30 p.m. So then, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
So I have a motion by Mr. Helmer and a second by Mr. Seidel to adjourn. Take the roll, please.
Mr. Helmer,
Yes.
Mr. Seidel,
Yes.
Ms. Crosby,
Yes.
Mr. Kurth,
I already left.
Ms. Schultz,
Goodbye.
Ms. Schultz,
Yes.
Ms. Unger,
Yes.
Ms. Wondercheck.
Yes.
Motion passes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Good night.